Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by 8 Sleep, the high-tech solution to your age-old sleeping issues. We'll tell you all about them later on in today's show, but do know you can get $200 off the pod cover by going to 8sleep.com/chatsports. Today's show, we're taking a look at the latest on the Cowboys defensive coordinator search, some news and rumors on that front as things begin to change here for the Dallas Cowboys. Most notably, Joe Whitt is not going to be this team's defensive coordinator. We'll break that down in depth here, but if you want 2 videos per day this offseason, morning and evening, with room for more as breaking news happens, then share this video. Help us out. Hit that share button, put it to Facebook, Twitter, X, TikTok, whatever. Share that video for me right now. Now, like we mentioned, as I'm sure you know from our short last night, Joe Whitt will not be the Cowboys' defensive coordinator. He has taken the Commanders' defensive coordinator job under Dan Quinn. He makes that decision before interviewing with the Dallas Cowboys. He was set to interview, part of the group of candidates today, with the Jones boys, and I think McCarthy as well. I only know for a fact that Jerry's involved there, but I would assume Mike's there too. Be kind of weird if he wasn't involved there. But Whitt was going to interview. Now he does not. He had been viewed as the top internal candidate for this job. He had been the Cowboys passing game coordinator from 2021 to 2024, had overlapped with Dan Quinn in Atlanta for half the season before, of course, Quinn got fired, and had been a longtime Packers assistant coach under Mike McCarthy. The ties to McCarthy, I thought, made him an obvious option for the new defensive coordinator role, and maybe things would have been different if the Cowboys not had a disaster class on defense in the final game of the season and kind of down the stretch this past year. I think the big reason why Joe Whitt has taken the Commanders' job over the Cowboys' job, guaranteed job security. You only got 1 year for sure in Dallas. Even if things are bad in year 1 in Washington, you wouldn't figure they blow up the entire defensive coaching staff unless he really is Mike Nolan 2.0. Better job security. I can't say I blame him. It was very interesting to see local media when Quinn first leaves. Joe Whitt's the next man up. National media. He's going to go to the Commanders. In the end, Whitt does take the Washington job. So are you upset that Joe Whitt has left the Dallas Cowboys and will not be a part of this coaching staff? It's the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Y for yes or N for no. That leaves 3 other known defensive coordinator candidates set for interviews, plus maybe one more. Aden Durde, the defensive line coach, Ron Rivera and Mike Zimmer, the former NFL head coaches who also have DC experience, and potentially Don Wink Martindale, who we'll get into here near the end of today's show. For those of you wondering, as of filming about a potential Al Harris interview, nothing reported on that front. Like I would assume most of you check in, I would like to keep Al Harris on this team's coaching staff. I think that's a good idea because the players like him. There's a lot of good technique stuff in the secondary as well. Is worth mentioning, no team has actually interviewed Al Harris or requested to interview Al Harris for their defensive coordinator role. Teams have done it with Aden Durde, which I think should be telling. That other teams go, yeah, we want the defensive line coach over the quarterbacks coach. Because, again, the things that make you a good position coach aren't necessarily the same things that would make you a good defensive coordinator and vice versa. So I would like to keep Al Harris on this coaching staff. We shall see if that ends up happening or not. I don't know what the contract statuses are for those guys. That plays a big role. Harris has said he'd follow Dan Quinn everywhere. The contract might not make it very feasible from that perspective. But I think for now, lack of an Al Harris interview from any NFL organization should probably tell us a decent amount about how he's viewed around the NFL. As mentioned, today's show is made possible by 8 Sleep. I've always slept pretty well. My wife has not. And that has changed thanks to the 8 Sleep Pod 3 cover. It brings heating and cooling tech that keeps you comfortable and sleeping deeper for a better, more restful night. Did you know that sleep science shows in order to sleep our best, our body temperature needs to drop in the early and middle part of sleep and then rise in the morning? The 8 Sleep Pod cover will improve your sleep by automatically adjusting your bed's temperature based on your individual needs for each side of the bed. The cover is added to any bed, just like a fitted sheet is, and allows you and your partner to cool or warm your side of the bed by as low as 55 degrees and up to 110 degrees, or maybe somewhere more in the middle for you. Start the new year right and invest in the rest you deserve with the 8 Sleep Pod cover. Go to 8sleep.com/chatsports and get $200 off plus free shipping on the pod cover by 8 Sleep. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Again, folks, it's 8sleep.com/chatsports. There's no better way to improve your day-to-day life than better sleep, so get it going with 8 Sleep at 8sleep.com/chatsports. Let's go now through these defensive coordinator options here. Ron Rivera, will begin with him. He had been linked to the job since before Dan Quinn got the Commanders gig, which is fairly noteworthy there. There is some ties to the organization. He had interviewed for the head coaching job a while ago. We spent a lot of time on Ron Rivera on our other video previously. I'm not going to go too far in depth here. I'd be very whelmed by this hire. Like, okay, sure. Hopefully it's better this time. Did not end very well with the Commanders. Now, his defense lost a lot of talent, took over the play calling from the fired Jack Del Rio. Again, it didn't go well. Maybe it'll be different with some different personnel. I've always thought Rivera was kind of the results match the talent level, which is fine. You've got some good talent, but I don't know if he ever really maximized those teams to a certain extent. Who do you want as the Cowboys defensive coordinator? Go ahead and sound off for me in the comment section of today's video. What coach do you want involved? Mike Zimmer, I think, would be a better hire than Ron Rivera. The retread style can be a little bit, fatiguing for me at least. But I do think there are some elements of what Zimmer has done in his time that make him feel. He's had success against Kyle Shanahan. The end of his tenure in Minnesota didn't go very well. Really poor results at the tail end. But beyond that, Cowboys, Falcons, Bengals, Vikings, all consistent top 10 defenses there. Now, you can hear from players that he's an acquired taste was one way of saying he can kind of be a bit of a jerk. You know what? Maybe you need a little bit of that on this coaching staff. Maybe a little bit of some hard-ass coaching would be a beneficial thing for you, since you have plenty of player-friendly coaches. And if it's going well, that's fine. It's when you start losing games that it doesn't go as well. So of these two options, pick a defensive coordinator for me. Who would you rather hire? MZ for Mike Zimmer or RR for Ron Rivera? Who would you rather hire? Because I'm going to say I'd be surprised if Zim wasn't your defensive coordinator this year. Certainly, the interview could go poorly, but I think it's going to end up being Zim. Who would you rather hire, though? MZ or RR? Go vote in the comments section. Aden Durde also getting an interview for this Cowboys defensive coordinator job. He is now the top remaining internal candidate on this list. Durde's had a rather unique career as the first British coach, I should say, in the NFL. Has been the Cowboys defensive line coach since 2021. Spent 3 years with Dan Quinn on his staff. That seems noteworthy because I had always assumed, Durde's going to follow Quinn. Well, if he's hired Joe Whitt as his defensive coordinator, that is not a guarantee. We'll get to that more in depth here in a minute. Was a Cowboys coaching intern back in 2014, 2015, and had some unique work experience overseas that I'm just going to group in that category because I couldn't even find the full detailed list of the timing there. He was the head of football development at NFL UK, heavily involved with the International Player Pathway Program. Also spent 6 seasons as the defensive coordinator of the London Warriors. So he does technically have defensive coordinator experience that I would say is probably comparable to the high school level, if we're being honest from that perspective. Now, what matters for Durde, not just getting the DC job, but his future, what is his contract status? I don't know what the status is of some of these defensive assistant coaches. If under contract, the Cowboys can block him from leaving. They can say, nope, you're under contract, you cannot you cannot take the defensive line job in Washington, and it's a lateral move, you're not going anywhere. And if he's not under contract, he can just join Dan Quinn. He can say, you know what, I'm under contract, deuces. I'm not under contract, I'm going to take this D-line coaching job. The same goes for Al Harris, by the way. If Al Harris is under contract, I would think he's back as the cornerbacks coach. Unless Dallas goes, it's fine, you can leave. The fact that it's the Commanders, a division rival, might make them even less inclined. Now, you got to make note, in general, when you block a move, you're kind of getting them for one more year. Because once their contract is up, they would like to leave. Understandably so, because they were blocked from their promotion or whatever they viewed it as a better job last time. We will have more Cowboys coaching updates for you right here on the channel, so make sure you are subscribed. YouTube.com/CowboysTV. Finally, we get to Don Martindale. Bryan Broaddus saying he was in the mix, quote unquote, for the job. I have not seen, again, as of filming, anything on a reported interview at this time. Certainly going to end up being the case. Maybe you go through your views on Monday, etc. And if you want to add this on Tuesday, it could be a hypothetical possibility as well. I will make note, the Martindale market has been pretty damn quiet, hasn't it been? You know, for a guy that every time he's available, it's, he's a top defensive coordinator option. He's got head coaching interest. Never really quite materializes that way, by the way, because that's what happens when your agent has a direct line to Ian Rappaport. But he checks off the experienced defensive coordinator box. And I am a little bit surprised that no one seemingly has had interest in him at this stage. I would guess that changes potentially in the coming days. But he and Brian Daboll didn't play nice together in New York, which the reporting makes it like it's a Brian Daboll thing. But he was spent 2 years as the Giants defensive coordinator. Ravens DC, red flag alert, immediately got better after he left. Red flag. Ravens linebackers coach, Broncos DC, Broncos linebackers coach, a long tenured career as a defensive coordinator, as a defensive coach. I've always thought he was a little bit overrated, but I think it's a better hire than Ron Rivera would be. So I'm not opposed to it either. If they do hire him, get ready for blitzing, because they're going to do a lot of that in Dallas under if they were to hire Don Martindale.